I am 74 years old. I have spent 47 years inside laboratories. I have published 31 research papers. I have mentored hundreds of students. I have stood in front of crowds and spoken about discoveries that changed how we understand the human body. And yet, the most important discovery of my life, I made too late. Not too late for the world, too late for myself. I thought I had time. I always thought I had time. That was my first mistake. And for a scientist, a man trained to measure everything, to question everything, to never assume, that mistake is almost unforgivable. You see, we scientists are obsessed with evidence. We do not accept anything without proof. We test, we verify, we repeat. But there is one subject I never studied seriously, one subject I kept pushing to the back of the shelf, myself, my own inner life, my own needs, my own quiet suffering that I kept calling temporary. Year after year after year. I told myself, finish this project first, then rest, then connect, then live. Later never came, not the way I imagined it. I am not telling you this for sympathy. I have had a remarkable career. The world has been generous to me. But I am standing here now, at 74, with a kind of clarity that feels almost cruel because it arrived so late. And when I look at you, wherever you are, whatever age you are, I feel something close to urgency. Because you still have time, but time is already moving. It does not wait for the right moment. It does not care about your schedule, your plans, your promises to yourself. It just moves. And the question I want you to sit with, right now, before you hear the rest of what I have to say, is this. When was the last time you studied yourself? The way you study everything else you care about? I spent a lifetime searching for answers in the wrong places. This is the story of what I found. I grew up in a house where work was worship. My father was an engineer. My mother kept the home running like a machine. No one talked about feelings. No one asked how you were doing on the inside. You woke up, you worked, you produced something. That was the measure of a good life. And I believed it completely, deeply, without ever questioning it. By the time I was 26, I had my first research position. By 32, I had a wife, 2 children, and a reputation that was quietly growing inside my field. From the outside, everything looked exactly the way it was supposed to look, and I was proud. I was proud every single day. But there was something underneath the pride, something I did not have a name for back then, a kind of distance between me and my own life. I would sit at dinner with my family, and my mind would still be in the lab. I would hold my daughter when she was small and be thinking about a problem I had not yet solved. I would lie next to my wife at night and feel completely alone, not because she was not there, but because I was not there. I thought I had time to fix that. I told myself this phase is just intense. Things will slow down. I will be more present when the pressure is lower. The pressure was never lower. That is the thing no one tells you about building a serious career. The pressure does not go away when you succeed. It grows because now you have something to protect. Now people are watching. Now the stakes feel even higher. So I worked more. I told myself my family understood, that my children knew I loved them even when I was absent, that my wife knew the sacrifices I was making were for all of us. I was wrong. Not about the love. The love was real. But love that stays silent, love that stays inside your head and never makes it into the room, that love does not reach people. I know that now. I did not know it then. My son grew up. He became quiet around me. Not cold, just careful. Like he had learned somewhere along the way that I was not fully available. So he stopped fully arriving. I noticed, but I told myself it was just his personality, just his age, just a phase. I was always waiting for the next phase. Meanwhile, my real life, the one happening in the small moments, in the ordinary evenings, in the conversations I kept postponing, that life was not waiting. It was completing itself. Without me, then one morning everything stopped. Not slowly, not with warning signs I could study and prepare for. Just stopped. I was 61 years old. I was in my office. It was early, the way I always liked it. Quiet, no interruptions, just me and my work. And my phone rang. It was my wife. She was not calling from the kitchen. She was not calling from upstairs. She was calling from a hospital. She had felt something was wrong for weeks. She had not told me, not because she wanted to hide it, but because she had learned, over 30 years of marriage, that I was difficult to interrupt. That sentence broke something inside me when I understood it later. She had learned not to interrupt me. The woman who shared my life, my home, my bed, had learned to manage her fear alone because she did not want to disturb my work. The diagnosis was serious, not immediately life ending, but serious enough. Serious enough to make time suddenly feel very different. Serious enough to make every choice I had ever made look completely different in the new light. I sat in that hospital room and I looked at her face. And for the first time in decades, I was fully present. No part of my mind was somewhere else. No background problem running quietly in my thoughts. I was just there, completely there. And the grief I felt was not only for her condition, it was for every moment I had not been that present before. I thought about my son and his careful quietness. I thought about my daughter who had stopped sharing things with me sometime in her teenage years, and I had never asked why. I thought about all the dinners I had attended physically but left emotionally, all the conversations I had half listened to, all the times someone I loved had needed me to simply be in the room, and I had been somewhere else entirely. I was wrong about what mattered, about what was permanent, about what could wait. I had spent 47 years measuring things, tracking variables, drawing conclusions from evidence, but I had never once sat down and seriously asked myself, what is the evidence that I am living well, not performing well, not producing well, living well? There is a difference. I did not know that difference until I was 61 years old, sitting in a hospital chair, holding the hand of the woman who had quietly loved me through all my absence. And in that moment, with all my degrees, all my papers, all my accolades, I felt like a student on the very first day, like I was only just beginning to understand something that simpler people had known their whole lives, that the work was never the point. The work was supposed to serve the life. I had it completely backwards, and I had built an entire identity on top of that mistake. Let me tell you what I discovered. Not in a laboratory, not in a journal, not in any research paper I have ever read. I discovered it in the silence after the hospital, in the slow, painful process of rebuilding connections I had let grow cold, in the conversations I finally started having, honestly, openly, with my son, my daughter, my wife. The discovery was this: we have been taught to measure our lives by output, by what we produce, by what we achieve, by what others can see and count and applaud. And that measurement is a lie, not a small lie, a fundamental one. A lie that sits at the very center of how modern life is structured and how most of us, without ever deciding to, organize our entire existence around it. I thought success was the destination. I was wrong. I thought presence could be postponed. I was wrong. I thought the people who loved me would always be there, exactly as they were, waiting patiently for me to finish becoming important. I was wrong. People do not wait forever, not because they stop loving you, but because life moves through them too. Children grow up and build walls where doors used to be. Partners find ways to need you less because needing you too much became painful. Relationships do not die loudly. They go quiet. They thin out, like a river slowly losing water. And you do not notice until you reach for something that used to be full and find it almost empty. Here is what I know now that I wish I had known at 30. Attention is not a reward you give people after you finish your work. Attention is the work, the most important work of a human life. When you look at someone you love, truly look at them, without your mind running somewhere else, you are giving them something that no amount of money, no career achievement, no future promise can replace. You are giving them proof that they exist to you, that they matter, that they are not invisible. I had a brilliant mind. I was trained to observe the smallest details in complex systems. And yet the people closest to me spent years feeling unseen. Not because I did not love them, but because love without attention is invisible. Say that again slowly. Love without attention is invisible. They cannot feel what you do not show. They cannot receive what stays locked inside you. They cannot be nourished by a love that never leaves your chest and enters the room. I also believed, the way many serious driven people believe, that my purpose was external, that I was here to contribute to the world, to advance knowledge, to leave something behind in the form of ideas, and contribution matters. I do not take that back. But I confused contribution with substitution. I used my work to substitute for the harder, quieter, more frightening work of being truly known by another person. Because that work has no applause, no publication, no recognition, no external proof that you did it well. You just have to do it in private, in the small moments. In the ordinary Tuesday evenings that feel like nothing, but are in fact everything. Later never came for me the way I planned, but later is not gone yet. That is the only reason I am speaking now. Because if one person hears this and chooses differently, chooses presence over postponement, chooses the room they are standing in over the future they are chasing, then this discovery, made too late for me, will not be too late for someone else. And that matters more to me now than anything I ever published. I want to speak to you directly now, not as a scientist, not as someone with degrees or titles or years of experience, just as a 74-year-old human being who has lived long enough to see clearly and who wishes, more than I can properly express, that someone had spoken to me this plainly when I was your age. So listen carefully. If you are building something right now, a career, a business, a reputation, a future, I am not here to tell you to stop. Ambition is not the enemy. Drive is not the enemy. Postponement is the enemy. The quiet, reasonable, completely logical habit of telling yourself that the important things can wait, that the people who love you will understand, that you will make up for it later, that once this chapter closes, you will finally show up fully for your life. I thought I had time. I thought the important things were patient. I thought love was permanent in the way that buildings are permanent, solid, unchanging, always there when you return to it. But love is not a building. Love is a living thing, and living things need to be fed consistently, quietly, not in grand gestures saved for special occasions, but in small daily acts of presence that say, without words, you matter to me right now, not later, right now. I missed thousands of those moments, and I cannot get a single one back. That is not guilt speaking. I have done my work with guilt. I have sat with it, understood it, and moved through it. What I am speaking from now is something quieter and more serious than guilt. It is clarity. The kind of clarity that only comes when enough time has passed that you can finally see your whole life from a distance. And from this distance, I can tell you with complete certainty, the meetings were not worth it. The extra hours were not worth it. The chase for recognition, the need to be seen as exceptional by people who, most of them, I can no longer even remember, was not worth it. What was worth it was small. A walk with my wife on a Sunday morning when I had nowhere to be. The 1 year I coached my son's weekend football team and watched his face when I arrived on the field. My daughter calling me last spring, out of nowhere, just to talk, not about anything important, just to talk. Those moments. That is where my life actually lived, and I almost missed all of it. Do not make my mistake. Not because your career does not matter. It does. Not because your goals are not real. They are, but you are not a machine built to produce results until you stop functioning. You are a person, with people who need you, with a self that needs tending, with a life that is happening right now, not after the next achievement, not when things slow down, not someday. Right now. The years move faster than you think. I know you have heard that before, but hearing it and feeling it are completely different things. And by the time you feel it, really feel it in your body, in your chest, in the way a random Tuesday suddenly looks precious, a great deal of time has already passed. I thought I had time. Later never came. Don't make my mistake. You are not too late. But you are not as early as you think. Put down whatever you are carrying for just one moment tonight. Go into the room where someone who loves you is sitting. Don't announce it. Don't make it meaningful. Just be there. Fully there. That is the discovery I made too late. I hope you make it now.